Good afternoon, everyone. My name is George, and I'm a PMRSO or Peer Mentor Support Resources Officer at SPH Queensland. Today, I'm with David Swift, who is a long-term member of SPH Queensland, living on the Gold Coast. Hi, David.
Hi, George. How are you?
I'm good, mate. David, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, please?
Hi. I'm 50. I've worked in community services for most of my adult life, and I am currently living on the Gold Coast.
Great.
And
Um, David, can you tell me something about your high school experience? Like, how did SBH influence you or shape those experiences that you've had over the years?
hmm. My high school experience was a good one, and I believe it's one where inclusion actually happened and worked really well. Um, I I slowly got myself into a group of friends, which sort of coalesced in year 11 and 12. I had varying positive and negative experiences with teachers around my disability. Some teachers I had to do, lengthy explanations about what the impact of my disability was
Hmm.
on their assessment pieces, particularly to get accommodations. Other teachers, I remember memorably, my year nine um, science teacher would automatically organise for my exams to be down at a special unit. And it was like, I just didn't even have to think about it with him. He just organised it for me, which was, that's a sign that inclusion's really working.
So you had all that inclusion in school and leading into your adult life. Just moving on to your adult life, a milestone worth adulting and in the finding and keeping a job. What were some of the challenges you faced finding and keeping a job and that has started your career?
Okay. I found finding and keeping a job a real challenge. Both sort of my own expectations of what I'm truly capable of doing, as well as what's out there, and matching those together. I've had long periods of unemployment, but I've continued to study during those periods as well. The highlight jobs I've had was TAFE teacher, where I actually learnt a lot about what I call do the small things well and competently
Yep.
in that job, which is like identifying aspects of the job or involvement in teams. TAFE was big on team work, so the teachers would get together and create
Hmm.
um, a whole learning, a whole program of resources, and we'd all do that together. So in that situation, I found myself having to, get into the team and do small things well for other team members, always focusing on what I could do and contribute in the team environment, as well as individually too. Like, yeah.
Okay. Thanks for that, mate. In your experience of in living independence with SBH, what are the biggest assumptions? What are the biggest assumptions others people have made about your disability or your ability?
Okay. The biggest assumptions that have been made about my disability is I don't have one, particularly around my hydrocephalus. I can present rather well in most situations. I use a wheelchair,
Mhm.
um, but people don't um, open up a conversation about um, how I might not be getting all the details across in a plan or something, or have left details out in writing in written tasks. And I've had to open up these conversations with my co-workers in particular, and just in general, like it can either like in finding out information about different things, different products. having to read 3 or 4 times the same set of information, like at a shopping centre if you're buying something new, um, to make sure that I really have got the right product or service for myself. Um, Understanding a contract or getting like a car serviced can be difficult. Managing money has been a challenge that I've faced, and successfully done that. And disclosure in relationships too, around the hydrocephalus as well as around the physical sides of my disability. Sometimes a challenge, most of the time not. Just have an open conversation is my tip.
Nice, thank you. Um, Now, David, what I'd like to ask, mate, is what are the challenges you and your family have faced living with living with SPH?
Um, I think it's the classic. The family's found itself on a different road to other families. I was fortunate in being born into a family that had a sort of a medical emergency services background, so it didn't phase them. But certainly, my schooling was an adventure for them as well as me. Dealing with teachers that didn't understand what my disability was and having to advocate on my behalf, and then ultimately teaching me to advocate for myself
Yeah.
and supporting me to do that. And particularly with memory problems, you can turn up to things that you want to advocate for and not have all the information with you. So that gets a bit embarrassing. And then, like Dad standing, going, "Here's the bit of information you needed for that meeting." you know, so that happens. And you've got to take these things in your stride as a young adult. You're going to take 100 hits before you get before you achieve what you want to achieve.
Yeah. So just talking about your family and what you faced living with SPH,
Yeah.
what are some of the what are some of the strategies, I should say, that you've put in place
Um,
to help you?
um, oh, one that immediately springs to mind is like a kit bag for myself, which I will still employ as an adult if I go overnight somewhere. Um, and that was originally with schooling. I had an extra kit with me as well as my usual bag, and that was kept at the school for change, for management of my stomach and all of the things that can go along with your tummy. So yeah, and other things. I think my parents were on the ball with providing information to teachers up front. Um, and then in the high school years, I'd have those conversations with teachers as well. But like I said, it got easier as I got older with that stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So thanks for that, Dave. Really, really appreciate that one. Um, so what was and are the key supports SPH Queensland has helped you with?
Um, I think in my journey to independence, it's probably around information and clarification of what's the nature of disability, and then that sharing of some strategies. We've been a long time subscriber to the Spina magazine,
Hmm.
and that's been a really good source for my family. I and later in my life, and particularly with the onset of with the NDIS, I've been able to access more services through SPH. Most recently, I worked with the OT on getting a hoist for my car because one of my shoulders has gone out now, and that happens due to a bit of aging and a bit of overuse with the wheelchair. So I now have a hoist which has cut 50% of the workload of carrying my chair around in the car.
Thanks for that, Dave. I just want to go back a couple of steps
Mm.
and just to your career.
Hmm.
So you're late 40s, early 50s?
I'm 50 now.
You're 50 now. Okay, thanks.
50 and fabulous.
That's great. Just going back on your career,
Mhm.
at what age did you realise you want what you wanted to do, and what other jobs over the years have you been able to, to gain the experience that you might be able to pass on to others?
Yeah. I guess that's come out of a lot of conversations. The answer to the question that you're given at school of what do you want to do after school, and that was sort of promoted in conversations with my parents, who thought something in community services would be a good match, with and also numerous doctors would say we need somebody like you working in the hospitals, working face to face with other people that we know could use your experience. So those sorts of conversations then rolled, and that sort of, I remember as a teenager, things just turn and you start to see that world, the bigger world.
Hmm.
And part of my sort of awakening was actually living in Montrose for a while, and realizing that there were people out there that sort of needed support to have a voice, and and that's what I really has been a theme of my career ever since. Uh, Doing the work that enables other people to speak up. So yeah,
So doing advocacy work and yeah,
yeah,
trying to support people in reaching their goals.
yeah, and also I'd call that facilitating groups and individuals to have a voice, or an individual supporting somebody to have a voice in a big forum.
Hmm.
I've committed myself to that sort of work. So
Great.
yeah.
Thanks for that. Now, I want to take you back to your 20s.
Ooh, yeah.
So, if you could go back to your 20s,
Mhm.
what would you say to yourself, and what would you do differently?
Um, I would say to myself, be calm, relax. It's all going to unfold in front of you, and you can only control you, and your behaviour will create your success.
Hmm.
I have a thing about um, behaviour way to success. So, yeah.
And David, just one last thing, mate. What would you like to say to people out in the community
Hmm.
about disability?
Hmm. Disability is just another experience of being an everyday person in your community. It's your brother, your sister, your neighbor, your work colleague. Um, we all have, we're all part of this unique human experience. And I truly think that, we all have um, a responsibility to each other to just, create a world where we can all live.
Well, thank you, David. Really appreciate your time this afternoon, mate. And thank you for spending the time with us. So there you go, folks. That's David from the Gold Coast, living life with SPH and not letting himself be stopped by anybody. If you'd like to have more information, you can contact us on 0738444600 or go and visit our website at SPH Queensland. Have a great day and bye for now.